All right, today we're jumping into the really fascinating and kind of murky world of unfair dismissal law in Australia. And we're going to see how something that seems like a totally valid reason to get fired, well, often isn't.
So let's just cut right to the chase, shall we? Can you actually get fired for calling your boss the C word? You'd think, absolutely yes, right? Well, you might be surprised. The answer from Australia's Fair Work Commission is, well, it's a lot more complicated than that.
And to really get our heads around this, we're not just going to talk theory. Nope. We're going to look at a real-life case involving a hairdresser from Queensland whose pretty heated outburst took her all the way to court. So, let's meet Tamara Depp. She's a hairdresser from Hervey Bay, and her story is at the heart of all this. What started out as just another job, well, it spiraled into a major conflict that really makes you think about our rights at work.
Okay, so here's how things went down, and believe me, it happened fast. Ms. Deb starts her job in early 2024, but by the end of the year, there's a new owner, and things get tense. Fast forward to June 2025, an argument kicks off, and boom, she's given 2 weeks' notice, but just 2 days later, there's one last, explosive argument, and the employer fires her on the spot for what they called serious misconduct. And that's a big deal, right? Serious misconduct is what employers use to fire you immediately, arguing that what you did was so bad, it just completely shattered the working relationship.
Right, and this is where the story gets really interesting. That final blow-up, it's everything. The employer saw one thing, a profane, threatening employee. But the Fair Work Commission, they saw something completely different. And they came up with a phrase for it that is just, you'll see, it's pretty unforgettable.
So you've got two totally different stories about what happened. The employer's side is clear. They say Ms. Depp dropped the C-bomb, threatened to poach clients, and did it all with a customer watching. But Ms. Depp's version, she admits to saying this is bullshit, but says, hang on, the client was already gone. And she argued her words were just her being frustrated, not some kind of fireable offense.
So, the big question is, who did the Fair Work Commission side with? Well, they actually ruled in favor of the hairdresser. They said her dismissal was unfair. But, and this is so important, it's not just that they sided with her, it's why. The legal reasoning here is the real takeaway.
And here it is. This is the quote that changes everything. They called her words an appeal to karmic intervention. Think about that. They looked at ours saying, I hope karmic gets you like the cunt you are, and decided, you know what, that's not a direct threat. She's not saying she's going to do something. She's basically just venting to the universe, a moment of pure, raw frustration.
But you know, this case wasn't just about swearing. It actually hinged on a super important legal idea called procedural fairness. Now, this is a huge deal in Australian employment law. What it means, in plain English, is that your boss can't just fire you on the spot without following a fair process. They have to investigate things properly, and, crucially, they have to give you a chance to tell your side of the story. And this, right here, is exactly where the employer's whole argument just collapsed. They messed up big time on two key things. First, they didn't really investigate. They just took the manager's word for it, which the commission called vague. And second, and this is the real nail in the coffin, they never even asked Ms. Depp for her side of the story before they fired her. That's a huge, huge no-no.
So what did this all mean in the end? Ms. Depp was awarded compensation, about $1,700 plus her super. Now look, it's not a lottery win. The commission basically figured the relationship was so broken, she would have left within a month anyway. But the principle, that's what matters. It was officially put on the record, her dismissal was unfair.
Okay, so that's one hairdresser's story. But what does it mean for you, for me, for anyone with the job? The biggest lesson here is that when it comes to what you can and can't do at work, context is everything. The exact same word can have a completely different meaning depending on where you are and what's going on.
And this right here shows you exactly what we mean by context. On one hand, you have the hairdresser. It's a single outburst in a small salon born out of a really tense situation. Now compare that to a recent case with a Commonwealth Bank Director who apparently told a junior staff member to calm the fuck down. Totally different world, right? You've got a corporate environment, a huge power difference, and allegations that this was part of a bigger pattern of bullying. So even if people swear in that office, a boss saying that to a junior employee, it's just not the same thing. That case is still playing out, but it perfectly shows how two similar acts can be seen in completely different lights.
All right, let's boil this all down. What are the key things you need to remember? First, context is king. Your workplace culture, who you are, who you're talking to, it all matters. Second, that fair process we talked about, it's not a suggestion, it's your legal right. Your boss has to follow the rules. Third, just because you swear doesn't mean you can be fired on the spot. It's not automatically serious misconduct.
And finally, a really practical tip. If you ever find yourself in this situation, you have to act fast. You've only got 21 days to file an unfair dismissal claim. The clock starts ticking immediately.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. After hearing all this, think about your own job. Where do you think the line is drawn in your workplace between just letting off steam, having a moment of frustration, and doing something that's actually considered misconduct? The answer? Well, it's probably not as simple as you first thought.